So, hi everyone. I'm happy to be here for the second time. So last year I already had the opportunity to provide you with an update on ENISA activities on certification, development of schemes, and so. So this year I will provide a focus on EUCC, which is the first scheme that we hope, finger crossed, to be accepted. Maybe not this year, but very beginning of next year. But it's on its good way to be adopted. Vicente will provide afterwards a more general view on our activities dedicated to certification, and he will provide views on the other schemes. Okay. Not sure it works. Where? Sorry. Nope. Okay, works now. So you might remember that 2 years ago we delivered to the Commission a candidate scheme which had been developed with the support of an ad hoc working group and which had been submitted to the opinion of the member states. And based on this candidate scheme, which was composed of more or less 300 pages, the Commission has drafted an implementing act. An implementing act is a piece of legislation that is submitted to the Cybersecurity Act that is established by the Commissions, adopted with the support of the member state, and doesn't go the full review by other participants to the legislation, Parliament and so on, so it's under the remit of the Commission. This implementing act, the draft, is composed of a core part, annexes, state-of-the-art documents and guidance, and I will explain a bit. So the core part of the document, and I hope you had the chance to take a look at the version that was published on the Have Your Say website of the Commission. Till the end of October, there was a possibility for everyone to comment the version that was provided. So the core part is are the elements which are the most stable ones. They are high-level requirements. For example, they cover the scope of what can be certified according to the scheme. They cover the elements under which the CAPS, the Conformity Assessment Body, will provide testing, will do how they shall be accredited, how they shall be authorized when they are dealing with level high. The core part explains what elements a vendor that applies to certification shall deliver to be assessed, which commitments he shall sign when applying. It also describes the general terms of the maintenance and vulnerability handling related to the certificates. At the end of the scheme, it also gives indication as when the scheme will be under operation with the transition period, and highlights also the national schemes that will cease to operate. And that is an important element because Miguel presented just before the state of play of CCN activities related to certification, included common criteria. And there will be a transition from the current state of Spain emitting certificates under the SOGAES and the CCRA, and a few years from now on, Spain emitting certificates for full Europe, which will be a big change. So the core part is having all these requirements. It also explains with recitals what are the elements of justification of the requirements and the provisions. There are some annexes attached to the scheme which go into more details, how to maintain, for example, a certificate. There is a full section on how to provide elements that will allow a vendor to be recertified for its product based on some evidence and based on the difference between the original certified product and the new version, for example. In addition to this core part and annexes, there will be a plenty, for the time being there are already like 12 of them, state-of-the-art documents. These state-of-the-art documents will tell you as vendors, as the vendors and developers of solutions to be certified, but also will tell you as testing labs and conformity assessment bodies more generally, how to proceed more in details based on the state of the art of the attacks and the technologies that are under assessment. And we wanted to have these documents outside of the core part and the annexes so that they can evolve at a quicker speed. Also, these elements will be only in English version, like from the SOGAS, whereas the rest will be translated. In addition to the state-of-the-art documents, which are, for the time being, mostly elements coming from the SOGAS, but also we started to add some elements, in particular for the accreditation of the ITSEFs. We also will have some guidance that ENISA has started to develop, but we will update everything while the scheme will be adopted. So most provisions and recitals that are in the core part are in line with the candidate scheme. For example, we still have the mapping between the assurance levels. We have 2 assurance levels into the implementing act, substantial and high, and the original mapping we had with the EVA van levels of the common criteria. This stays here. We still have the requirement to have authorization of CAPs in addition to their accreditation when they will perform level high, and so on. We also have some new provisions, in particular when it comes to the adoption and usage of protection profiles, and this is an important part on the discussion at the committee being the place where member states are currently discussing with the Commission and ENISA the final text. And what is under discussion today is the status of the protection profiles, when they will be certified, whether they have to be adopted by the member states to become a reference document, or whether they can remain at individual level applicable for national procurements and so. And there is the question here of harmonization at EU level, which is under discussion. We have indeed the fact that we introduce state-of-the-art documents. That is something which is new indeed also to EU legislation. We have transition period, which is under discussion. So the proposal from the original scheme was to have a 2-year transition period. Now we have 1 year, so it's still something which is under discussion, because we also have the previous SOGAS certificates which are emitted that should also be maintained over time. So this is an important part of the discussion. Participation to the CCRA also is something under discussion. The first version of the implementing acts was not so much in favor of keeping the member states as participants to the CCRA, and most of the member states participating to the discussion have asked to remove that obligation to quit the CCRA. So we anticipate and already have discussions. We already had 4 meetings, one more next week, and we hope to conclude the discussion at the end of the year. So, but there are still some elements to be discussed. So the questions that are also highlighted for the discussions as are related to EUCC certificates, the scope versus national schemes. So when do we consider a national scheme should cease to operate, and which are the conditions under which a national scheme can continue to possibly emit certificates that therefore will not be recognized under the full EUCC participants, but will continue to have a national CC mark. We have a discussion also on the flow remediation. You might remember that the Implementing Act and the CSA introduced the necessity to monitor the vulnerabilities and how we would tackle this vulnerability handling, how to introduce this was first seen as a possibility through the establishment of specific flow remediation requirements. And some member states are also discussing whether there could be more options to that, such as, for example, commitments of the vendor to apply vulnerability handling. This is also something under discussion. But also at international level, this question of introducing flow remediation requirements to handle vulnerabilities is being discussed. And we also have we had pilots on vulnerability handling, and we want to take the best decisions based on these pilots. For example, where the criticality of the vulnerabilities might imply some different timelines in terms of reaction. So the annexes, as I mentioned, are more or less elements from the candidate schemes that are technical domain independent. State-of-the-art documents are more technically dependent and are supposed to be updated at a higher speed. We already are thinking about future evolution of the EUCC, and once the scheme will be adopted, some elements we want to have, for example, are establishing a maintenance of the scheme. Some member states have already highlighted the importance to establish a maintenance organization based on the SOGAS way to do maintenance with the GIL, JAS, JED, and so on, the ESKI group from Eurosmart, but also a member state layer. And we have tried to combine both worlds into a proposal that will be discussed, that we will start being discussing at the end of the year. We also have lots of national interpretations within CC certification, and we are gathering these national interpretations so that they can become EU ones. We are also now embarking into the discussion cryptography. This is also an element Miguel mentioned, that there are some evolution into the cryptographic landscape. And for those who have seen the evolution of the US attitude on post-quantum crypto, they are putting post-quantum crypto everywhere, in particular in the collaborative protection profiles that are now under revision. And so we want to also have our EU way to introduce crypto into the schemes, not to have a certification scheme on crypto like you have here at CCN, not immediately, we will see over the years, but at least to make sure that we have harmonized interpretations as how to handle crypto within the certifications of products based on EUCC or on the cloud or on the 5G. And this is an important element. We want to establish again what we consider being good algorithms, mode, protocols, and so on, and how to harmonize the evaluation methodologies. We also have an activity on developing websites where we will promote certificates, and we have established also ways to promote certifications through a dedicated mark and label with a QR code, and we want to implement that. We have also the goal to develop platforms to further discuss with the community, and Vicente will further discuss that. We also have an important chapter which is interplay with EU legislation. So evolution of EUCC with the maintenance here is a recap of the proposed organization, which will probably try to embark also into the picture an ISAC structure, which is Information Sharing and Analysis Center. For those who do cybersecurity in sectoral activities, this is a very common way to gather communities. We have already started to develop state-of-the-art documents based on national practices, and here I give some elements. One of the example I can give is the conditions under which testing will be performed. Some products might necessitate that testing is not performed at the testing facilities, but can be done partially at the vendor's site or remotely, and these are elements we want also to analyze. Cryptography, so we have two documents that we are first discussing now. ACM is the approved cryptographic mechanism which has been established by the SOGAES, the current 17 member states gathering of ES common criteria, and I invite you to take a look at these elements because they are gathering at EU level what is possibly a new state-of-the-art or guidance document for the schemes. Here we have the interplay with other regulations. So EU 5G will reuse common criteria, at least for the EUCC, which is the platform that is hosted in the smartphones that can host the SIM profile. And also this EUCC may host the wallet, which is the evolution of EIDAS regulation. We also want to think about the strategy as how to certify other parts of the wallet, such as the app that are on the smartphone. So we are thinking as well how to reuse EUCC and of course EUCS when this is all in the cloud. We have started to do a feasibility study as how to certify AI. Vicente will give some elements as the scenarios we are developing. And also the CRA, it's a big piece of legislation. You might remember that certification schemes are on a voluntary basis. So there we are developing schemes that one may wish to have against its solution certified. The CRA is not on voluntary basis. It's for mandatory application, but there are use cases within the CRA foreseen where certification will be mandatory or presumption of conformity via certificates will allow to meet the requirements of the CRA, and we are investigating as how to do this. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Philippe. We're very sorry because we haven't time for you any question, but we would like to thank you for being here with us and explain us the European certification skills. Thank you very much. We are going.